What's going on, guys? Where I'm going to be talking about why people that bought their home a few years ago cannot sell their home today. So before I tell you why that phenomenon is happening, it makes sense to give you a backstory so you understand how we ended up here and what you can do to strategize an exit. Okay, so I don't want to just give you the problem and doom loop you all around. I want to give you guys a solution. So before we jump into why this is the case today, let's go back further. Okay, let's go back before 2021. Because really it's people that bought in 2021, 22, and 23 are the ones having the most problems, okay? And that's going to be kind of where we're going to kind of take it apart from. But what we need to do is we need to go back a little bit before that. So during 2020, we saw very low interest rates, right? We saw like the lowest interest rates we've ever seen. We saw people taking equity lines of credit out. We saw people taking equity out of their homes to buy investment properties. We saw everybody moving around. We saw people that had locked in equity from years prior sell their home and have cash, cash purchases in the homeowner. The housing market was very common. We saw a lot of these homes being purchased with cash. So what happened in 2020 was we saw a large amount of home sales volume, and we saw a rapidly shrinking inventory. So what we saw is we saw a price spike in home values, and then we also saw a lot of people purchase these homes to drive the prices much higher. Okay, so that happened. Okay, that was at super low interest rates. Now, if you bought it early 2020 or a little before, the 2021, you might be able to squeeze out okay. Now, the problem exists in people that bought during 2021, 22, and 23. Because as you guys know, in the summer of 2022, that's where we started getting the increase in mortgage interest rates, right? We started seeing the affordability start to dampen. We still saw people come in 2023 and kind of the last ones on the sidelines buying, and they're kind of stuck in the same predicament we're currently in. So I want people to understand that that is how we got to where we're currently at. Now let's break it apart even further. I want people to understand the math behind this so they can really understand what it is that's going on. So if you bought a house in 2021 and your mortgage payment is, you got it at a 3% interest rate, right? Okay, and your mortgage payment's around $3,000. If you have a 6% plus interest rate, that same mortgage is going to be about $4,500. Okay, and in some states, in some cases, like locally here in California, down in Florida, where they've seen insurance premiums literally double. Okay, we've seen electricity bills double. We've seen water bills double. We've seen the price for any type of repairs double. Really, that mortgage payment could easily come close to $6,000, right? So that means the new buyer that comes in to purchase at a 6% interest rate is not only going to have to pay about 30 to 35% more just for the interest rate, and all that money is going to be going towards interest, not principal. But if you look at how much the insurance rates and premiums have gone up as well, and you look at the electricity and all, the trash, all the things that come along with owning a home, repair, cost, maintenance, you could actually be paying double for the same property that somebody bought just a few years ago. And now here's where the phenomenon comes in and kind of gets kind of interesting. So we're seeing an increased number of people that bought during 2021, 22, and 23, and in some cases 2020, but they're a little bit more insulated from this. And what we're seeing is even if they're dropping the prices under from what they paid, we are still not getting offers on these particular properties. These properties, and the best way to find them, I recommend, is when you go onto Zillow and you look at areas like Florida, inland California, if you go into Austin, Texas, and some of these areas that had a large influx of buyers, especially cash buyers, that boasted the overall zip codes home value up much higher, you'll notice if you go down to the public data thing at the bottom of Zillow, you'll see that these people have their home listed for a loss. And the remarkable part about that is there is nobody purchasing these homes. Okay, they're literally sitting on the market for over 120 days with minimal saves, minimal action, which means they're getting no showings. And what it leads me to believe is that we live in a current time where these cookie cutter homes are going to be the first to crumble. Okay, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get like a a giant crash, because if you look at the foreclosure numbers and you look at the homes in default and the homes being short sale, it's nowhere near 2008, 2009. So I just want to be clear on that. I'm not necessarily saying that we're going to see a crash per se, but what we could see is a prolonged downward trend, because a lot of people that bought in 2007, 2008, they were only able to break even for their home by 2020. Okay, and I want you guys really to put that in perspective. It took them 12 to 13 years just to break even for them buying at the last bubble peak. Okay, so if we are hypothetically, or were hypothetically in a bubble, then that would mean we could go down very slowly. You know, we would not necessarily have to have a sharp decrease due to default. What we could see is a lock-in effect, a freezing effect, where people are locked into these lower interest rate homes that are kind of detached from the inflation, the general inflation of the economy, based on their home monthly mortgage payments. And these people are just kind of stuck. They're not able to sell. They're not able to rent for a profit. And the same thing applies to whoever's coming in to buy them. You're not going to get any kind of person that wants to own a real estate investment portfolio that's going to make any money at the current prices, because the mortgage is going to outpace what they can get for the rents. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't even, the rental market is going down. So why would somebody buy a home to rent out where they're going to have to fork out money every month just to pay the mortgage? It doesn't make any economical sense. So my point is the reason this happened was an increased cost of living, was an increased mortgage rate. And what we're seeing is if you look on Zillow and you aggregate the data to homes that were built in 2019 and up, you'll notice there's a lot of these cookie cutter homes sitting around Florida, Austin, Texas, inland California, that are sitting for multiple days on the market without any offers, any action. And they're already priced lower, in some cases 20 or 30% lower than somebody that bought in 2021. So if the people that are selling these homes in 2021 are selling because of an affordability crisis, what makes anybody in the right rational mind think that there's going to be able to be all these buyers to come in and purchase when the monthly mortgage amount is going to be exceeding that same number? I want you guys to let me know what you think. Drop it in the comments and let me know.